Okay, welcome to the Blue Collar Corner. My name is Michael Hawkins. I am the owner of Hebron Jiu Jitsu and MMA, and I also am about to tell you a little personal story, so that way we can all understand why did I start Hebron Jiu Jitsu and MMA, because I get that question quite a bit. Everybody has different reasons for asking, and for me the answer is pretty simple. A little complicated, but pretty simple. Um, I was a dumbass when I was younger, and before I could graduate high school, I was in prison. And I spent many, many years having to intentionally focus on self betterment, self development, because it was the only option. There was no other choice. If I didn't do that, I was probably going to sit a much longer time in prison. And as an 18-year-old man in prison, it's very difficult, especially when it's maximum security prison because you escape from jail. So, without expanding into that too much, it has been my personal mission to not only include self betterment into my life, but to make it a principal function of my life. I've noticed along the ways that a lot of people don't get that same opportunity. I really believe that prison for me was a gift because it allowed me to separate myself from society in such a just a profound way. Um, and then I had to establish the importance of the little things, like having discipline and commitment and a good understanding of many topics and a good understanding of where you're going, what your goals are. I had to do that. I didn't have any other choice because I was in maximum security prison. I had already pushed all of my family away from me. Nobody really wanted to help because how would they know if I was actually needing the help, wanting the help, or if I was just lying? When I was a 17-year-old kid, I just didn't think. I wasn't a career criminal. I didn't do 35 crimes. I did a few crimes that were really stupid that got me thrown into prison. And that's the ultimate reality of it. So from 18 to 24, I was incarcerated. At 24 years old, I was released and I immediately entered into college. At first, went into applied sport and human performance. After, I don't know, a semester or two, I think it was 2 semesters, I decided I was going to switch to pre-hospital emergency care. After a semester or two, I decided that I was going to move to Florida. And that actually ended up being the best decision that I ever made because growing up in Nebraska, I'm sure you can imagine, I had quite a few friends. Not all of them were great or making great decisions. So the biggest culprit of people getting back into trouble is the fact that they never change the circle that they hang out with. So we'll try to take the next part of all this and make it a little bit more condensed and shorter. Of course, there's thousands of stories in each of the steps of my life that probably would serve to be interesting, but we're not going to cover those today, and I'm not going to make this podcast 30 minutes long. We're going to make a short introduction, just say who we are, why we're here, and move on. I met my wife at OFC in Wayne. At the time, I was attending college for applied sport and human performance at Wayne University. Now, I ended up transferring to pre-hospital emergency care and then ultimately transferring again to construction management where I spent 3.5 years studying. And now I was working full-time in construction also. Many, many high-rise buildings, many Universal and Disney World splash pads, playgrounds, pool decks, you name it. If it was a concrete surface, we could coat it. Garage floors, interior restaurants, anything that you could coat, we did. And I still do some of this epoxy to this day, but it's certainly not my main function anymore. In 2021, I believe, Hurricane Ian blew through the west coast of the United States. the west. Oh, shit. So when Hurricane Ian came through Fort Myers, it obviously did a lot of devastation. I mean, it was pretty close to a Category 5 hurricane. The news didn't really say it was a Category 5, but it certainly did enough damage to constitute that. And a lot of people had such substantial structural damage or just functional construction that needed to be done other than aesthetic that it was just kind of wise for me to choose to adapt my business into a handyman or a contractor based organization. Now, since I have 4 years secondary education, also was currently certified by the state for decorative concrete coatings, it just seemed like a good choice to make that transition. And so since that time, I've been running Hawkins Construction Services. We still offer some of the same epoxy flooring, pool deck, that sort of stuff, but we don't do it quite as much. A lot of what I do is interior walls, a little bit of electrical, a little bit of plumbing. I try not to get involved in too many large projects just because I don't have a crew that supports it, and I don't really have any interest in pouring a lot into that part of my life right now. So when I moved to Hebron and we bought a house here, I had a decision to make, and my question to myself was pretty simple. What would the community benefit from more? Should I invest into my construction company and expand the services to fill voids and needs in the local community? Not a bad option. But also, I want to consider opening a martial arts facility in Hebron. And my reasoning is pretty simple. Even though when I was 17, I was a bit dumb with my decisions, I was still involved in mixed martial arts. That's when I first got started. I first trained at Hands to War Mixed Martial Arts in Crete, Nebraska. And that was a fun little introduction to, martial arts. At the time, Charlie Dubray was just turning pro. I believe Jeremy was just turning pro or had turned pro before or after that. I can't remember. But it was a great introduction into the world of mixed martial arts. Unfortunately, it was a 45-minute drive from Hebron, so I didn't get there quite as often. I think it would have been an extremely beneficial activity for me to take part in at that time period in my life. And as I look around Hebron, I still see some people making similar decisions. I still see some people that could benefit from having the ability to express themselves physically and get rid of frustrations and grow and develop in an area maybe where they think they couldn't have or didn't have the ability or access to beforehand. Providing boxing and Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. Not only do I love those sports, so it's very easy for me to relate to people who want to learn those, but more so, I understand the benefit of using those things to replace bad habits. Why do I understand that? Because I did it. It's the only way that I stayed out of prison. It's the only way that I opened 3 different businesses. It's the only way that I've been able to purchase a restaurant and demolish it and turn it into a gym with one other person helping me. That's the only way anything like that happens, because of my direct concentrated effort on continuous improvement with myself. So if somebody that's as big of a fuck up as me can go to prison for escaping from jail and then rebuild himself with honest hard work into something that provides value and benefit to the community, then why can nobody else do that? And obviously that's a redundant question. Anybody else can do that, but you just have to be willing to put in that hard work. Now, I'm not a life coach. I'm certainly not the person that doesn't make mistakes. I continue to make mistakes to this day. But I'm always, always, always focused on improving. Always focused on doing better and speaking better, presenting myself better, not only to other people, but to myself, because I understand that the language that we communicate with ourselves has so much to do with our ability to perform in daily life activities, let alone athletics. So that brings me to my next point. Human performance has always been a deeply concentrated area of focus for me. Always. It just always had been. I've always been fascinated with how far you can push the human body and how much the mind can comprehend, achieve, and integrate. And so the birth of this jiu-jitsu and MMA gym has a strength and conditioning aspect to it. The reason that strength and conditioning aspect to it is obviously because we want to influence mortality rate by improving overall health and function. Just put it on a basic, simple level. How you apply that to general population, we want to live longer and feel better doing it. Now, for those of us that are still competitive after high school, for whatever the case may be, marathons or boxing competitions, competitive cricket, I don't know. Whatever your sport is, we want to try to continuously get better and develop in those things. It's either, think of it as a continuum, a spiral. The spiral either goes up or it goes down. There is no stagnation. There is no flat plane to rest. So you're either losing or you're gaining. They say that training is like sweeping the floor. Just because you swept the floor yesterday doesn't mean the floor will be clean today. You still need to sweep the floor today. So just because you trained yesterday doesn't mean that today you don't need to. Almost every day we should do something athletically. Now that may be recovery focused, that may be speed focused, that may be power focused. Each day our focus changes, our modalities change because we're getting specific, we want specific responses from the body, and we can define those responses scientifically. Now, the access to this information is all out there. You can go on YouTube and find lots of guys who are kind of correlating the same information. If you want to be a better athlete, all you have to do is utilize this device that's in front of your face to not endlessly scroll and to learn something and to use it to improve every day, every minute, every second. And you will do it. So I guess the broad question is, why open Hebron Jiu-Jitsu? Martial arts has a much broader meaning than just the ability to kick or punch. Martial arts is the ability to roll with unexpected, the ability to fight back when it's difficult, the ability to understand that there's meaning behind the pain, that we don't undergo suffering for no reason, that we do things with intention, and that if we do it for long enough, then we will have fantastic results. Now that correlates to life very well. But what it means to be a better athlete, a better man, a better brother, a better neighbor, I don't know as if we have enough people that speak out on that behalf. I don't know as if we have enough people that are willing to stand up and look like the odd person out. I believe that title doesn't mean leadership. Title and position is simply that. It's just a title, it's just a position. Leadership can come from any level. It can come from anyone, any place, anytime, anywhere. And I think there's some part of me that correlates this to having some pride as an American towards your community. I'm going to do the absolute best that I can to better myself, because I understand that having that as a focus of mine directly correlates my ability to help others in the community. So this gym, the intention is to provide a facility for people to be able to do the same. Sometimes changing the world around us starts with changing the world in us. Not even sometimes. All of the time. It starts with changing the world in us. Thoughts won't become actions until you intentionally guide those thoughts in the correct direction. Until you intentionally follow through with those actions. And if nobody around you pushes you to follow through with those actions and asks you to uphold a higher standard for yourself than you think is possible and tries to push you to be better, not only for yourself but for your family and for your community, then you're not in the right room. So Blue Collar Top Team, my intention is to build the right room. We have all of the functions and features of big city gyms. Every tool that you need to be the best athlete possible is inside of these doors. And everybody that's in this facility that represents this team will push you to uphold that highest standard of yourself. Our striking program is the highest standard of striking in today's mixed martial arts. The way that this striking program is taught, it meets you at your level and it builds you up. Everybody is here for different reasons. Everybody is in different positions. Not everybody will meet the same standards, but everybody can improve and grow and increase their own standard and thereby increase their life and the lives of others around them. Our jiu-jitsu is the same way. We affiliate and we align with people that will not just teach any curriculum, but teach curriculums that work and are proven at the highest level. Everything inside of these doors at Blue Collar Top Team is as top of the line as I could make it for this area. And I feel the way that I went about this is the most beneficial thing that I could do for my community. Growing up in Hebron, screwing up my life dramatically in almost the worst fashion possible, spending 5 years in prison, and then needing to rebuild my life to the point of where it is now in 10 years, this is the best thing I could do for my community and especially my hometown. I'm offering a facility where people can develop and grow into their best selves. We've got several different kinds of services. Even if you just want to come in this door and have somebody to talk to, the door is open. That's what we're here for. We're here for self-betterment. So, if that's your thing, if you want to be better, come see us. We got jiu-jitsu, we've got striking, we've got mixed martial arts, got private trainings, so you can bring 1 or 2 people. We can go over some specific things. We can go over self-defense. We can go over whatever it is that you would like to cover. We've got a sauna. We've got a cold plunge. We've got a small little kitchenette so that our people can eat. We've got a shower that's going in. It's a really good facility. Blue Collar Top Team is here to stay, and we're here to make a name for ourselves, but there's a standard. There just is. I have an expectation of people that train here. It's not to be all UFC caliber athletes, because that's not it at all. If you're 55 and you walk in my door and you just need to get into better shape, your expectations are much different than the guy who is 25 and is 4-0 in amateur fighting. those expectations are different. But we also have different classes for that. So, don't be intimidated by the service. Anybody can throw a punch on a pad. Anybody can throw a kick. Now, everybody has different obstacles to overcome. Some people have pre-existing injuries. Some people have limitations. We work around those. We meet you at your level, and then we build you up to the best level that you can meet individually. So, my name is Michael Hawkins. This is the Blue Collar Corner, and this is podcast number 1.